So good day. We're learning Kuntres Acharon, the fifth and final section in the Tanya Kadisha, the Holy Tanya. We're using for now the lessons in Tanya. We're on page 294. And I'll read just a little bit over here as an introduction, and then we'll get into the text. In the beginning, as the Medrash teaches, Hashem created worlds and destroyed them. Are you familiar with the saying? It's a very famous, difficult medrash. What does it mean that Hashem created worlds and He destroyed them? The Kabbalah explains that this refers to the spiritual worlds, the supernal spheres, emanations that first existed in one state of being and then in another. The spheres of the former state of being, called the world of Tohu, literally chaos, underwent a breaking of the vessels, spheres Akelim, and what came of that was called Olam Atikan, which was then built. So this is Kabbalah's understanding of this medrash. That there was worlds, spiritual entities before this physical world came to be, and they're known as the Olam HaTohu, the world of chaos. And because it was chaotic, it ultimately shattered, and the sparks, chips, fell into this physical world, which is the world of Tikkun. That is the Kabbalistic basic understanding of this medrash. The spherois, when we talk about Yoni spherois, it comprised of two things: oiros and kalim, literally lights and vessels, which means energies and receptacles that contain these lights, the receptacles that hold within it and harness the energies. So the energy doesn't go off in the deep end, but rather the energy is filtered in a way that makes sense. The crisis in the world of Tohu occurred because the oiros, the energies, were so intense that the vessels, the kalim, were incapable of containing them. As a result of this breakage, sparks of holiness descended within the klipot. Within klippas, the negative forces, negative husks that conceal godliness. These sparks are to be found in the world of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya in general. But not, Baruch, but not in the world of Atzilus. Because Atzilus is Elikus, Etzloi v'Samuch. It's only from the second world, i.e. the world of Bria, the world of creation, where there's Yesh Mi'ayin and there's Gilia, there's Helen, there's concealment. So that's where the sparks fell. They basically fell from the world into the world of Bria, Yitzira, Sir, not Atzilus. But particularly within the physicality of our world, it is the task of the Yid, of the Jew, to sift this materiality by using it properly in order to extract and refine these sparks, thereby elevating them to their original source in the world of Tohu. Now, what does that mean, Menashe? When you eat an apple, you should take a magnifying glass and look for a spark? No, of course not. It means that in the apple, there is divine energy, and when you eat the apple in a proper, holy way, by making a bracha, and by thinking about what you're saying, and being focused on the purpose of the apple, and not that you're just eating because you're a glutton and you're hungry and all of that, that is the way you find the spiritual spark, and you reunite it with its source in the world of Tohu. This elevation in turn elicits a mighty downflow of divine energy from Tohu and from even higher than that level. When you do that, Baruch, when you reunite the spark, the nitzutz, with its shayrish, Hashem gives you, kind of as a reward, a gilui of toyu, which is the passion. In other words, it's not that when you accomplish the extraction of the spark to its source, you get tikkun, you get normalcy. No, you get a burst of energy, a burst of flow. And that flow is toyudik. It's chaotic. But you still need the filter of tikkun to harness it. But the content of that flow is toyu. And not in a negative sense. We mean the positivity of toyu. Okay. Now, certain divine names whose respective Kabbalistic meaning are signified by Hebrew letter combinations are related to this process of what's called birurim, refinement, the extraction and refinement of the sparks of holiness. Thus, listen to this, the names known as Ban, Beis Nun, which equals 52, is the source of the fallen holy sparks. The name Ma, which is 45, is the power that extracts and elevates them. Now, when we talk about four names of Hashem, there's four different ways that you can spell the Yud Kei Vav Kei. One with the Nekudos, with certain vowels. One will equal 52, one will equal 63, one will equal 72. 45, 52, 63, and 72. Ma, Ban, Sag, and Ab. Right? So it's all how you spell the word Yud Kei Vav Kei using different nekudas. Okay? So he says that the name of Ban is the source of it's the source of the fallen sparks. The name of Ma is the refinement of those sparks. Okay? While the name Sag, 63, is the original source of the world of Toyu. When the extraction and elevation of the sparks deriving from the name Ban is accomplished through the name Ma, a lofty degree of divine illumination is drawn down from the name Sag and is vested within the capacious vessels of the world of Tikkun. This extraction is for the most part accomplished through the performance of action-oriented mitzvahs involving physical objects which derive their life force from Klippas Noiga, and top of page 295, and whose house the sparks of Toyu, and which house the sparks of Toyu. Performing a mitzvah with such objects disencumbers the hidden sparks of their corporeal husk and elevates them. So in other words, when you do a mitzvah in simple English, Chavre, when you do a mitzvah, you're extracting the sparks. Okay? That's in simple English. That's one way. We're going to see later a few other ways. The seeking out of sparks, however, can also be accomplished through the study of Torah, as well as through prayer. So we have three ways. Yaini. Mitzvahs, Torah study, and davening. And the Alter Rebbe is going to explain these three things in this chapter. In the present essay, the Alter Rebbe will explain the statement of the Pri Eitz Chaim that nowadays this extraction is mainly affected through davening, through prayer. For prayer is uniquely able to draw down an infinite degree of godliness. Prayer alone can bring about changes within the world. Healing the sick and causing rain to fall. Now you hear that, Chevra? Not mitzvahs, not Torah study, dafke tefillah. This once again, Baruch emphasizes the Alter Rebbe's thought process throughout Tanya, especially in the Geras HaKodesh, the importance of davening. Davening with kavanah, davening slow, davening with hisbonenus and all of that. Davening with a minyan, davening with a group, davening with in a louder tone, everything that we've learned until now in Tanya. And Alter Rebbe says here that although the reuniting of the sparks to its source can be done in three ways, mitzvah performance, Torah study, and davening, it is only davening, the third way, that will accomplish an actual effect in the physical world. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And that's why we say, Reife, Chol Basar Mafli Lasois, all the brachas of Shemon Esrei, right? That's part of tefillah. That's very literal. It's not, it's not just a thought to study. It's not even just a mitzvah to do. It's a way of actually causing Hashem to give you the refuah shlema, to give you the more parnasa. Yes, Baruch.
I think about Shemona Esrei, we say Yiratzon. So Yiratzon is a way of wanting to change the hashpach for us, wanting to change Hashem's will.
Correct.
And that's
yeah, but we don't say Yehir. Where do we say in Shemona Esrei Yehirotze?
At the end.
At the end.
Stop at the end.
The end. The Yehirotze Imri Fi. Right. So that Yehirotze at the end goes back on all the brachas of Shemona Esrei.
Yeah.
Just want to make that clear. Okay, but let's continue. In order for such a degree of godliness to be called down, there must first be an arousal initiated from below. It doesn't happen automatically, Menashe, by davening. You have to exert yourself in davening. You have to initiate it. An expression of man's ardent desire to be the recipient of divine benefactions. And if these benefactions are to flow from an infinitely high source, the plea that requests them must surge from a correspondingly deep source, quote, with all of one's might, b'chol me'oidecha, from the infinite depths of one's soul. And that's what tefillah is, Chevra. Mikirus halev. I spoke about this yesterday. Davening requires a person to get to a place where from the depth of their heart they call out to Hashem. Hashem, I need parnosa, better parnosa, I need better health, I need better this, better that, help me. Okay. Now let's learn the text. This is a very long essay, and it's going to take probably a week to a week and a half or two, but we're going to do it. To understand what's written in Priyetz Chaim, during this time, in other words, the time of the exile, when the base of Israel was destroyed, it's called Zman Hazeh, Ikir Habirur, the primary way of extracting the sparks of Toyu is al yedei with tefillah, hatefillah dafka, specifically through tefillah. Next page for those that have lessons in Tanya 296. Although we say normally that the study of Torah is greater than davening, right? Like we say, what do we say? Talmud Torah keneged kulam. So although that we say that and it says exactly what it says and it means what it means, nevertheless there's a virtue and advantage that tefillah has over Torah study. And this is what the Alter Rebbe is going to explain here. And that virtue has a deeper impact on the extraction of the sparks, reuniting it with their source, and the accomplishment vis-a-vis that in the world of tikkun, in the world of correction. The idea is, Shalidei Torah mitzvahs mesif and oir b'atzilus. When we learn Torah and we do mitzvahs, the Kabbalah says we draw forth additional light in the world of Atzilus. Pirush, this means, Oyresav Baruch Hu Bekelim Datzilus. The infinity of God is in what we call the vessels of Atzilus. Ayidei Talmud Torah B'pnimiyas, through the study of Torah in an inner aspect, we draw down the divine intellect. That's when we study Torah. 297. And through performance of mitzvahs, we draw down the flow to what's called the externality of the vessels. Shehem Pchinas, they are Netzach, victory, Hoid, we're saying in the Sfira Hoid this week, acknowledgement, Yisoid, foundation, Shebiyut Sfiris, Zoda, Shabbatzilus, of the 10 Sfiris, known as the Zeir Ampin, the small faces of Atzilus, the Midrash of Atzilus. Rak. Shemislapshin Bebriya Yitzira Vasiyah. They invest themselves in the three worlds of Bria Tzira, B'Torah mitzvahs Agashmiyim Shabayil Mazeh, in the physical Torah mitzvahs in this world. Let me read the note. The divine intellect that is drawn down into Atzilus is ultimately vested within the Torah of this world, while the divine light, which is drawn into the externality of the vessels of Doah and Atzilus, is vested within the mitzvahs of this world. The effect is thus strictly within the material aspects of the Torah mitzvahs of this world, but not within the materiality of the world itself. In other words, Baruch, the elikus that comes from this process of Torah and mitzvahs, the first of the two processes, draws elikus, but into the spheres of the world, not into the world itself. You hear the difference? The world itself is the Gashmias, as the Gashmias is on its own. And in order to have a change in the physical world, in your life, for better health and better parnos and all of that, it needs to be in the Gashmias, independent of the spheros within the Gashmias. That's what he's getting at. Let's continue. Avolat Tefillah, conversely, what is accomplished when we daven properly? He amshachas in himself Baruch Hu, it's drawing down godliness, bebriya, yitzirasiya, dafka, loy b'derech eslapshus bulvad, not in a way that's known as mere enclothement, as in the case with Torah study, where the divine light is garbed in an entity which is in turn drawn into this world. Rak ha'oir mamish, the actual oir, the actual energy, is drawn lishanes and evroim, to modify the state of creating beings, because Moshe on page 298 in Lessons in Tanya. And what does that mean practically? There should be a change, a modification, that the person who's ill should become healed. V'yered hageshem mishamayim lord, and rain should come from the heaven to earth when rain is needed. V'yelid v'yitzmicha, and it becomes fertile and yields to vegetation. These are changes that affected within the actual physical world. So again, to recap, the Alter Rebbe's point is that although there are three methods to reunite the sparks that fell in from the world of Toyu into the world of Tikkun, only the third way, which is through davening, can cause, if you exert yourself in davening, an actual change in the physicality of the world, so that you get a healing and you get more money in the bank. The other two ways of Torah study and mitzvahs, which are required, don't have the power to make a change in the Gashmias. This is a very, very big chiddush. that's again predicated on the teaching of the pre-Eitz Chaim. If you don't study that pre-Eitz Chaim, or you don't believe in it, you'd open the Torah, and it says in Parshas B'chukaisai, "Im b'chukaisai telechu, v'smitzvaisai tishmairu," if you follow my statutes and you do my mitzvahs, v'nosati kishmeichem b'itoi, I'll give you rain. That means through the study of Torah and through the performance of mitzvahs. The Eitz Chaim says no. The Pri-Eitz Chaim says that in order to effect a physical change in the physical world, bereft of spirituality that there is in the world vis-a-vis Torah and mitzvahs, you need to daven. This is chidush 100%. A novelty 100%. And again, the Alter Rebbe, he's not the one that came up with the chidush. The Chiddush is what's from the Pri-Eitz Chaim, Reb Chaim Vital, in the name of the Arizal, the Holy Arizal, which probably has also its source in Zohar HaKadosh. But be that as it may, the Alter Rebbe obviously accepts the Chiddush, he agrees with it, and in his Chabad style, seeks to explain why it is this way. And what he has taught us till now is that the reason is because when you do a mitzvah, Boishe, you do a mitzvah, I put tefillin on. It's like, what's going on here? Putting on straps somehow makes me holy. It doesn't make sense, but you do a mitzvah. Then you talk about learning Torah, right? Torah study, if you do it right, it's not the intellect of Torah, it's the Torah. So again, how is it that studying something changes your bank account, changes your health, changes your shidduchim? It doesn't equal. But when you daven, and it comes from you, because the whole idea of tefillah is you. In other words, Menashe, Torah and mitzvahs is God within you. Tefillah is you within God. So it begins with the you. That's very real. Because we're living on earth, we need the parnasa, we need the health, we need the shidduchim, we need peace, on and on. So in other words, it's very real. So that's why the Alter Rebbe explains, it is only through tefillah that we could, if we daven properly, it's not an automatic, they're just saying the words. But if you daven properly, and it comes from the depth of your heart, it's T-O-T. There were Chassidim, there were Yidden who in the middle of davening, they spoke to God in Yiddish. Or today in English, My mother of blessed My mother of blessed memory, she was raised in Costa Rica after the war. She survived, was a survivor, and there was no Jewish education when she was there, from 1950 to 58 or so. So she didn't get a Jewish education. She got from her home. Her home was a frum home, an Orthodox home. But how much, she went to public school, How much do you get already, right? And many times growing up, the way she would bench, she would say, Hashem, I thank, in Yiddish, I thank you for the food you gave me. Thank you. I heard this. You're talking about a frum woman, a Holocaust survivor, but she wasn't comfortable so much in the reading of Hebrew because she didn't have that education. It was a struggle for her. She did it, from time to time. But many times, she always thanked Hashem for the food. But in simple Yiddish. That's what we're talking about. And again, don't ask me halachic questions. How does that fit with halacha? I'm not talking about now this idea that tefillah is very much you. Yes, Moshe, what's your point or question?
What was TOT? You said
Aye.
you said, what does that mean?
I can't say it online. It's T. The first T stands for your hinder part of your body in Yiddish.
Okay.
On TOT, on the table, means
Okay.
it's very real. Okay, you understand. So
Got it. Thank you.
you're welcome. So the whole idea of tefillah, we have to understand this, and we have to really live with this. Daven a little bit, say a little bit, but say it with heart and say what you're feeling. Express yourself how you're feeling. You get up in the morning, you're in a mood, a certain mood, you don't feel well. Daven and tell yourself through davening, I feel crummy today. Why? Again, there's no formality here. You have to say these words. It doesn't work that way. So when you say Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha, fortune is man that sits in the. For one person, like my grandfather from Romania, Oliver Sholem, he didn't attend my father's wedding, and my father wanted him to come, and he could have afford to come. He said, he quoted my father, my father always repeated it to me, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha. Fortunate is man who sits home and doesn't travel and doesn't go. You live longer, you're more at peace. Traveling is cumbersome, as we all know, especially now when you have to pay $5,000 for an economy seat on El Al and $15,000 for, we're talking about in the shul. $5,000, and there's no place. You can't get a seat. So, Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha, right? So when you say Ashrei in the morning or at Mincha, right? And if you're experiencing this, for whatever, whether you had a rough trip or whatever the case, and you relate to it, that should be expressed through Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha for someone else. Ashrei Yoshvei Veisecha by Shemayers is how lucky it is I'm able to be in a shul and to daven. Soldiers are on the front. They can't be in a shul. They have to save the nation and protect the nation. And yes, they daven and everything else, but many times they can't be in the shul. And I have the fortune of being in the shul. Wow, I'm so lucky. These are thoughts that you need to. This is what we mean. I'm giving you examples that tefillah is very you. It's the real world. And if you don't daven this way, then you're missing out at such a great opportunity that Hashem gave us to express ourselves. So the truth is that davening is such a gift. It's like, it's a method in which you could really be yourself. And who doesn't want to be themselves? Only a fool doesn't want to be themselves. And that's why Hasidim, Yidden, the Hasidim would put their talis over their head. They didn't want distractions when they're looking into themselves. It's not time to think about other people and other things. Again, I'm not saying you have to put your talis over your head, but the focus of tefillah. So this is what the Alter Rebbe is saying here. And I see we reached our time, so we will continue tomorrow. But I think this itself is a great message as we get close to Lag BaOmer and Reb Shimon, right? Tefillah. Although Reb Shimon brought the rain when they needed rain through Torah, but nevertheless, that we'll talk about maybe on Lag BaOmer or pre-Lag BaOmer. The message here of the Alter Rebbe is that when the Eitz Chaim says that the Iker of birur, the ikar of extracting the sparks in accomplishing the reunification with its source and causing a better tikkun is through tefillah. So remember, it's not the Alter Rebbe's Kiddush, it's the Pri Eitz Chaim, but the Alter Rebbe really explains it, I think, fantastic, very well. And we could use it tomorrow morning, today when we daven mincha. Have a great day, everyone. See everyone tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye bye. Shalom.
Very
Take care.
impressed.
Hatzlacha Rabba. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing.
Bye bye. Bye bye.